Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the March 3rd Board of Public Works and Safety meeting. We're streaming live on City of Madison YouTube channel, archiving it there as well. Clerk, may we have a roll call?
Sure. Carl Eaglin.
Here.
Bob Courtney.
Here.
And Dave Carla.
Here.
Board, have you had an opportunity to review the minutes from February 18th? We'll entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion we approve the minutes.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks. And moving on to claims.
Mayor, reviewed the claims. Everything appears to be in order. I'll make a motion that the claims for the general and the payroll be approved as submitted.
I'll second David's motion.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, new business. So, Brian, Utility Superintendent on Wells Drive and a few other things.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of go out of order on there. I'd like to take care of the NDOT culvert project, water and sewer line relocation before I get
Yep.
into the stuff with Rob.
Okay.
Basically, I kind of summed it up in your notes there, but it's just an agreement that we're going to set money aside to relocate the water and sewer lines as part of their NDOT project if they need to be relocated. That's why I wanted it in the project, because the other option is we go ahead and relocate them and pay for the relocations even if they didn't need to be.
Yep.
So that's, and we have to have these, and this is basically you guys approving that we're setting the money, that I have the money in the water and the sewer departments to pay for it.
Okay.
And I actually can sign these. I have in the past. We've done several of these for past projects.
Just a spring, I can't remember the timing of when they're doing that culvert
Oh, it
work.
probably won't be, I don't even know if it'll be this year. It'll probably be next year.
Oh, next year, okay.
There's multiple, now, let me clarify. This isn't the one by Grody. This is the one up by J.A. Berry Lane.
Oh, okay.
And then
So I
there's
was
the one
confused.
further north that doesn't affect us at all. There's a lot, there's like 4 culverts along State Road 7 that they're going to be working on. This one is just the one south of J.A. Berry Lane, about 600 feet or so. And they were wanting us to relocate it, and we met Friday, and I was like, I'd rather just put it in the project, because if we don't need to relocate it, I don't want to spend that money. And he said, okay, then we have to have these agreements. I said, that's
Okay.
fine, I'll get them for you.
Understand?
Okay.
So do you want to go over these two with the dollar amounts, and then we'll take a motion to approve?
Okay.
I'd prefer to sign contract if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It says it's for the water relocation, the agreement amount is $16,154.90. The sewer agreement is for $13,443.08. And that's it. That's a sewer force main is what that is.
And contractually, whenever we have our utilities in someone else's right of way and they're doing work there,
We have to
we
move.
already have an obligation to relocate if necessary.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll move that we approve the 2 agreements with Indiana Department of Transportation for the relocation of sanitary sewer line and water lines as presented.
I'll second your motion.
Have second, any discussion? Comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Brian, thank you.
And the second item is the certificate of substantial completion. I'm going to scratch it from the agenda because the company did not complete everything they needed to complete by today for us to go ahead with the substantial completion.
Okay.
So we're just going to skip right on over
You want
that.
to just table that to the next meeting then?
If they're finished, yeah, that's ideally correct. Yes, Rob says.
Okay, well, I move that we table the certificate of substantial completion for, is it the Storage
Division B.
Tanks Rehabilitation Division B?
Yes, yes, sir.
Have a motion there?
I'll second your motion.
And do we have any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks.
All right, and the next item is the CE Commonwealth Engineering Memo for the Wells Drive Lift Station Improvements Phase 1 through 3. I'll let Rob come up and give you guys kind of a brief overview of what we're going to be doing there.
Good morning. the memo that Brian was referring to, just for a little historical context, it's been, gosh, I guess
Hey, Mandy.
about 5 years,
Thank you.
5 or 6 years since we completed the last wastewater project. That project was Phase 3B, I want to say, of your long-term control plan
Right.
to address your combined sewer system. You've got 3 permitted CSO points out in your collection system. That last project addressed 2 of them, Vaughn Drive, which we refer to as CSO 002, and then at State Road 7 there at Crooked Creek, which we refer to as CSO 010. The last CSO that we haven't addressed yet is up on Wells Drive at the city's lift station up there, and that's CSO 004. The focus in the last project was on the first 2 locations because historically the discharges there have been more frequent than what we have at Wells Drive. However, we still need to, just to kind of close the loop with IDEM, we still need to address and clean up Wells Drive. So that's kind of the next step in the project from a wastewater side to kind of get you guys closed out and in compliance with the state. There's a big lift station up there right now, and that's where the CSO point is located. When the flows coming into the lift station exceed the capacity of the lift station, that's when we have a CSO event. That lift station in and of itself has been very reliable for the city, but it's old, it's deteriorating. And Brian's wastewater staff is now having to start spend money and effort to do Band-Aids, basically rehab on that lift station. So time has come to look at upgrading that station, kind of get it up to today's standards. What I presented in the memo that's in your packet is kind of a phased approach to kind of get us started in the first steps of the process, and then kind of give the board here an idea on what that means moving forward. We broke it out into 3 phases. Phase 1 being installing some flow meters up in the sewer system up there around Wells Drive. That'll serve basically 2 purposes. One, that'll allow us to properly size the new pumps for that station when we're ready to get to work on the upgrades. But it'll also allow us to try to pinpoint certain areas. That's a much older area of your collection system. That'll also allow us to try to pinpoint some areas of infiltration and inflow, so we can maybe do some targeted rehab up in the collection system as well. So in this phase 1, what we're recommending is we get started now. We're coming out of winter and into spring. Now's the time to get flow meters in the ground before we get into the rainy season. Put the meters in, collect the data for up to 2 months. If we get some good rain events early on, then we can go ahead and pull those meters, but we're assuming that we'll have them in for 2 months. We'll then take the data, put together basically a technical memo, a brief report that summarizes, here's the flows that we're seeing, here's the recommendations for what needs to be done to the lift station, and then leading into what would be phase 2 later this year, once we've kind of identified some areas where smoke and gun areas, so to speak, for potential sewer rehab. We'll follow that up with some smoke testing. So get the meters in the ground this spring, phase 1, look at phase 2 later summer, early fall to do some smoke testing, finalize a planning report that would put the city in a position about this time next year to then look at putting in funding applications to do the actual upgrades at that lift station. So that would then become phase 3 once we had some funding laid out.
Rob, couple questions.
Sure.
Thanks for being here today.
Uh-huh.
This lift station, when was it built?
Gosh, it's 72.
Okay, I was going to guess sooner than that.
No.
1972, so it's a half a century old. And when the city did its PER back in 2017, in preparation for the last kind of major sewer improvement project, surely is there more than Wells Drive that's out that did not get properly corrected in the project in 2017?
Outside of general maintenance and maybe some targeted rehab in a collection system, the project that was completed in 2017 was kind of coming on the coattails of all the upgrades at the wastewater treatment plant. So you had the wastewater treatment plant project that increased the capacity of the plant, and then we came in 2017 and did the work out in the system where we built the storage tanks up by the state hospital, and then the one that's actually down by the treatment plant. And then we replaced some other sewer lines. We put a relief sewer down Vaughn Drive, upgraded the lift station at Vaughn Drive. But really, once the treatment plant work was done, what we have left to do, we knocked 2 of the 3 out in that last project.
Well, don't we have, I'm not even going to throw a number out there because I know Brian knows it off the top of his head, so I'm not even going to take a guess. How many lift stations do we have across our system?
Jeez.
We have 42 in the city and 42 in the county.
So we have 84 lift stations.
Which
So-
we continually maintain,
Right.
yes.
Well, maybe give me some feedback relative to, we have 82 lift stations, and the
84,
one we're
yeah.
concentrating on is just Wells Drive. I know it's probably the largest, but maybe talk a little bit about why we're not, the scope of the work isn't broader than just the Wells Drive lift station.
Yeah, all lift stations aren't created equal. Even a little pump that's doing 3 houses is considered a lift station, and
Okay.
we have a few of those. This one is,
It's a regional, and if you look at
if you look at your map,
Yeah, if we could go through and show us what we were looking at in the maps and the memo that you gave us.
look at Exhibit A.
You see Exhibit A, it's down below there, Mindy.
yeah, she's got it.
So that red hatched area,
Not the, yeah.
this area, this is all draining through that lift station. So
Okay.
when Brian mentions that all lift stations aren't created equal, we have a significant number of smaller lift stations that may collect a half dozen houses or maybe a small neighborhood. We would characterize this Wells Drive lift station as a regional station
It's-
that's
wow.
collecting a significant amount of flow from the hilltop and sending it down the hill.
Right, and some of the smaller lift stations feed into that system that ends up at Wells Drive. So there's lift stations within that system too, so just keep that in mind. And like I said, we have a few major lift stations like this, the Grange Hall lift station, the Wells Drive lift station, the Vaughn Drive lift station. As Rob said, those are the more regional areas that take care of bigger parts of the city. And then the others scattered, a lot of them feed into these larger ones.
You know, the reason I brought it up was just trying to understand what the scale of it is. So it was 2017 probably when the last sewer rates were approved.
Yes.
We're going on 8 or 9 years into that by the time we kind of scope this out. We know that inflation has far exceeded the, our growth in revenues there, so we're at a bit of a deficit there. We have the Jefferson County Sewer District that we're responsible for that I'm assuming is also very old, will need some investment. We're going to have to calibrate the rates in order to do another multi-million-dollar sewer project.
Correct.
I was just wondering if our.
That's phase 3.
We're talking about but we're talking about Wells Drive, and are we really talking about the rest of our system again? And if we're going to bring this in 2026, I really don't want to piecemeal it. We got to be thinking about what our next 5 years of capital needs are and get it taken care of, and then also correct, the deficiency that we have in the structure of our sewer rates.
Generally, we do that. I have Rebecca working on certain areas that need repair, and we may include the Main Street project in this as well to help me in my operating budget.
Okay.
But it all depends, the timeline's kind of affecting that because I know we've got to coordinate with the paving of the Main Street. So if I can incorporate this with the lift station, and there's a few other troubled spots, all that will be put into one, but this will be the biggest portion of that project.
And really what we're talking about here today is kind of the prelude of the work that's and the planning that's really necessary for Wells Drive. And I just want to throw it out there that if we're going to bring a PER back in 2026, we should really be looking at our other
Absolutely.
capital needs too.
And it'll be just like the water was, right? Well, your rate consultant will come in, once we've identified, here's the anticipated cost for what needs to be done at Wells Drive and potentially the sewer work down on Main Street, the financial consultants will come in and they'll look at, all right, here's how our rate structure is set up and what do we want to budget and what can we afford. I think the term that they use is extensions and replacements, but it's basically funds that can start being built up in the sewer side so that he can go out and address some of these smaller lift stations or go do some smaller areas of sewer rehab without having to come back to the well every time to reevaluate your rates.
So what's our action today? Is it about the
So-
two items identified for
Yeah.
wells?
I have,
Before we go on there, is there any other explanation you want to give us with regard to the maps that's attached to this memo? Because the maps were really helpful, but you want to run through the maps real quick?
yeah, the
and tell us
maps,
what they represent?
the other maps are basically just giving you guys an idea on where we're going to be putting these flow meters in. And these are all in the branch lines that are going upstream of that Wells Drive lift station. But again, the intent is to be able to compartmentalize smaller areas of that red shaded area so that, not only can we look at the flows that are coming to the lift station, but as we get out away from it, try to pinpoint some areas where we may need to focus on some rehab in addition to
And is it-
upgrading.
Which
Is
would
it-
also be part of the project.
On these meters, is there gonna be, are you gonna have to actually go inside the line, or is there?
They'll
They-
be in manholes.
Yeah,
Okay, they're in the manholes, okay, so there won't be any destruction to the line?
Nope.
There won't be any-
No.
They
Okay.
access, all 7 of these are going to be accessed at existing manholes. Everything will be down inside the manhole. And, we'll have access to real-time data.
So right now, we don't know how much,
We have an idea, but again, it's only as accurate as some of the old equipment that's at that lift station. If we're talking about doing a significant upgrade to that station, we want to make sure that we properly size everything.
and this is necessary to find out exactly where we are,
Correct.
as far as the influence into the station.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right, and we have to kind of anticipate too, any future demand that may be
Right.
put on this lift station.
Yeah, because if there's a subdivision or something built in the
Correct.
future,
It's going to
you
come
don't
through
want to
there.
say, well, whoops, we should have thought about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't want to build it just to take care of what's existing.
Because there are a lot of points of entry here that you're gonna make in the map.
So yeah, the rest of the maps basically just give you an idea on where, and we sat down with Brian and Rebecca to kind of evaluate what makes the most sense to drop these meters in. So that's the result of those meetings, and it gives you an idea on where we're going to be putting these meters.
Are any of the meters outside the city limits?
Yes, I
Yes.
think so. Because this takes in Virginia Avenue, I mean, it goes all the way over Audubon Park.
Brian, I don't know if you know or not, how many customers do we have that's on our sewer system outside of the city limits?
I do not know that. We don't differentiate that in the billing. I mean, I can tell you how many's on the county.
So you're saying that if you don't live in the city, you basically are paying the same rate as if you lived in the city?
If you live north of the city.
Okay.
The county system, the Grange
So
Hall
the city is
system.
subsidizing out-of-city residents' sewer services? Okay.
No comment.
No, I'm just trying to get to the fact of the matter here.
Hereford Lake has a lift station out there right by the highway, you see.
That's
That
county
part of
system.
That's county system.
But
it's ours.
ours.
Okay.
Yes.
And
And
even,
it feeds into the Grange Hall lift station.
Right.
Yeah, which is the major one out there.
even if you live in Rikers Ridge, for example,
No,
They're
that's a
their
separate
own,
system.
yeah.
well,
That's
where's their sewer go to get processed?
to Madison.
Okay,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, because they go through their own little stations out there individually. Yes.
We have actually 5.
Well, we're going to be taking a brand-new approach to how we calculate water and sewer rates in the future.
Now, the county system that you're referring to out Hereford Lake,
Yeah, the Grange Hall system, yes.
that's completely separate than the city's budget-wise,
Correct. Correct.
funding-wise.
And it's separate.
Separate
physically.
entity,
It's physically separated from,
Right.
until it joins down here downtown. Right, they have a force main that runs from Grange Hall Road all the way to downtown Madison.
but they have their own budget, their own operating.
They is we. It's
Yeah,
Brian.
they is we.
Yeah. Yeah.
At some point, they need to be we.
Yeah, they need to be
Because
we.
right now, that means 2 sets of books, 2
Yeah.
sets of accounting, 2 sets of everything.
Yeah.
We basically, I have a water and two sewer departments as well.
It's misleading to call it the Jefferson County Sewer.
Correct. That's why I
system.
keep referring
Yeah.
to it as the Grange Hall Sewer
Yeah.
System.
Is there a way in the future that we might permanently meter the flow?
For what?
out
Would
of
you leave the
county?
meters in there all the time, or is
Out
that
of the
temporary?
county towards
That's
us?
very expensive.
Okay.
I mean, we're doing it for 2 months and it's gonna be $60,000, so that's a very
Wow.
expensive endeavor. So, no, that would be a great,
Thing.
if I could meter, I'd love to meter my water system in sections, but it comes prohibitive because of cost.
Okay.
Because that would help us determine leaks in certain areas if you.
Sure it would.
Sure, but, yeah, that's, in utopia, that'd be great, Carl.
Okay. California tax system, we'd have it. Okay.
So you want to get the meters installed during the wet season, during the
Correct.
spring rains?
Yeah.
Yeah, as
To
soon
get
as
a
we
better
get it
reading?
approved here, which, what he gave you was an overview of phases 1 through 3. What we're gonna be approving today, or to get it, presenting to be approved is phase 1,
So,
When you
yeah,
talk
which is
about-
the next thing on the list, task order 2025-01.
so yeah, phase one would be now, the springtime, right? Get that data, get it processed, and then come back late summer, early fall to present, all right, we got our information, here's what it told us. Now we're ready to transition into phase 2, which is the smoke testing, writing the PER that the mayor mentioned.
Now, the smoke test, is that to tell you?
That tells you who's putting inflow on you
Okay,
illegally.
so I know on the hilltop years ago, they did that, and some
Gotcha.
of the folks in the wet areas had all their drains coming off the house into the sewer system.
Yes.
That's the goal, is to get everybody's drain off of the sewer, because they put stormwater into us, and then we have to treat it.
Right,
So
so
that goes through our
process.
plant. I mean, that just makes it harder on
Yeah.
us at the treatment plant.
Well, and it eats up capacity, right?
Sure it does,
So if
yeah.
you can eliminate some of those connections and get some of that clean water out of your sewer lines, it opens up capacity for you to connect more customers in the future.
Does that also show you where you have leaks
That's.
in your
yes.
main, in your
Yes,
Yes.
infiltration?
yes.
Yes, that's what the smoke test.
And those will be taken care of?
Yeah,
Those
that
will all be
will become
identified.
part of the project.
Correct.
That's why I was trying to tell him earlier that we don't know the extent of what's going to be part of the lift station project until we do some of these
Right.
tests.
Right.
And plus, there will be other things too, but
Good to have a
outside
plan.
of this lift station area.
So Brian, today, what you're asking us to do is approve phase 1
Right,
for the
task
Wells
order
Drive lift station
2025-01.
sub-basin flow metering, which would include the flow metering and the technical memorandum assembly.
Yes, sir.
And are we paying that through our operating or
Yes.
operating account? Okay.
Which, now, I generally what has happened in the past when we start the beginning of these larger projects is I pay for everything initially out of our operating budget. And it qualifies for reimbursement when we get the loan.
Okay.
And do the rate increase. So I can replenish those funds if need be.
And timing on did you say spring of 2026?
No,
The flow meters are going to go in this month.
No, I'm just talking relative to the PER and then the application for SRF.
So, yeah, the
Financing.
application, so the intent would be to write the PER in phase 2 later this year and get it done by the end of this year so that we can do all the public hearings and all the things that SRF requires of us, such that we'll be ready to submit to SRF come March of next year, 2026. And then you'll know July timeframe of next year, 2026, where we rank, how we scored, and where we stand from a funding standpoint, such that we would ideally start design, mid to late summer next year.
So construction possibly 2027?
Mid-2027, yes.
now, just keep in mind though, this progressing like he's saying depends on the flow data. If we don't
Right.
get good flow data, then everything gets pushed back. So just keep that in mind. He's Mr. Glass half full, I'm half empty.
So are you just wanting approval for phase 1, or do we
Correct.
need to go ahead with phase 2?
No, just
We're
phase
looking
1.
We'll wait on
for
phase 2?
Phase 2 is got a to-be-determined component in it, because I don't know the magnitude of the smoke testing until I get the flow meter data.
Okay,
Right.
So we'll come back later in the summer or early this fall to present Phase 2.
phase 2, okay,
Right. Yeah, the flow meter data is going to give us some information about where to do the smoke testing.
right.
And so we don't know that completely. It could be a whole bunch of places, it could be not very many, we just don't know yet.
Well, I understand. It was a good outline, and thanks for answering questions that you probably didn't expect you were going to get.
Yeah.
But this is,
I tell him always expect what we're going to do.
this is the prelude to a lot more extensive work that's needed in our sewer system. We're on the tail end of, our water project, which is 5 years in the making, and we'll do the same thing with sewer.
Yes, sir.
I like the idea of, what you suggested was looking into future projects.
We'll have to roll it in for, if we do a
And so-
rate study.
Yeah, so we don't
Whatever you need.
piecemeal, so,
We try to take in as much as we can throughout the entire city and the entire system when we do the next project. It's,
Yeah, it's just, the mayor's commented on it before, the preliminary engineering reports are quite robust, and it'll identify a lot more than just focusing on Wells Drive and that collection system. It'll kind of be, at this point in time, this is everything that we're seeing throughout your entire system, and we just need to prioritize it, but it'll be your roadmap, not only for the next 5, but for the next 10 years.
Next 10 years.
To
Yeah.
continue to do upgrades in your system.
so we
So I
need,
guess we need a motion and a second, and then we'll see if there's any comments or questions.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve, the Phase 1, Wells Drive Lift Station, sub-basin flow metering.
you might refer to it
With-
as Task Order 2025-01.
So-
Because the future ones will also be task orders, but with different numbers.
Gotcha.
Second David's motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the task order 2025-01 for the Wells Drive Lift Station Sub-Basin Flow Metering. See how I pulled it all in together?
That's good.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
This is yours.
Wow. Complicated, but very necessary. Moving on, we have Planning, Preservation, and Design, Nicole Shell, with a professional services with OHM.
This is our annual contract with OHM for our stormwater services. This includes our membership into the Southern Indiana Stormwater Advisory Committee, SWAC. We use them on an as-needed basis to help us with documentation and permits through IDEM. The contract is not to exceed $20,000, which we were well south of last year.
Yeah, if you recall, OHM was our consultant on the updates to the stormwater ordinance that
Yes.
were mandated by IDEM. And it'll work in conjunction with your office and our MS4 coordinators.
Correct, yeah.
Just for everybody knows, this is all about stormwater. City of Madison has a tremendous, I should say, network of stormwater infrastructure. We're still developing policies and procedures and targeted capital investments, as well as looking for ways to detain and minimize the impact of new development relative to stormwater and the impact on other properties. So this is an area that has been getting a lot of attention from us the last couple of years. Very necessary. We're still building out kind of how our department is managing such a large task for the city.
Well, that addition there on Ferry Street several years ago, that has worked very well with all the stormwater, but then you don't see any collection there.
Yeah.
After, so it's worked very well.
We have a lot of work to do to stop flooding issues, but having good policies and then a targeted investment, this is where OHM comes in and helps us.
Mayor, how does this incorporate into the situation out on Walnut Street?
You want to answer that?
Yeah, this is a separate contract, so we have a contract with Commonwealth Engineering, who is looking at the Army Corps of Engineer data and creating a master plan on how to deal with the flooding on Walnut Street. OHM is specifically for our MS4 program and the documentation that we need for IDEM to be compliant with their regulations.
It's, I would look at OHM as kind of the policy coordinator for MS4 practices to comply with state requirements relative to MS4. And then the other contract is an implementation plan to deal specifically with the repeated flooding at Crooked Creek, ways to abate that in the future. And then also we mapped through that process, we mapped our stormwater infrastructure and delineated what's city stormwater infrastructure versus private stormwater.
Correct.
So two very distinct things.
Yeah.
But both necessary.
So we need a motion.
So we need a motion for the approval of this annual contract with OHM not to exceed 20,000.
I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal for professional services with OHM, not to exceed $20,000 for 2025.
I'll second David's motion.
And I'll have one question. I think we already had budgeted professional service fees. Is that where this is coming from?
Yes,
Or- okay.
yes.
Any other discussion, comments, or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. Now we get to move on to the fun stuff, which is which are resolutions for various street closings for the different events happening throughout the city. So, Joe, I'll turn it over to you on resolutions, and we're going to do Casa Rumble on the River Car Show first. So, Whitney, I don't know if Pam or anybody here, okay, come on up, introduce yourself, and Joe will talk about the resolution.
Resolution 2025-4B, a resolution of the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana regarding street and parking lot closings for Rumble on the River Car Show. Whereas there has been a request filed by Whitney Roberts on behalf of CASA of Jefferson County for street parking lot closings for said group in connection with the Rumble on the River Car Show to be held on Saturday, May 24th, 2025. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Public Works and Safety of the City of Madison, Indiana, that the following streets and parking lots shall be closed from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on Saturday, May 24th, 2025. And that's Vaughn Drive, from the east side of Broadway Street to the west side of Walnut Street, Poplar Street, Central Avenue, Mulberry Street, and Jefferson Street, from Vaughn Drive north to First Street, West Street south of the entrance to Heritage Apartment parking lot to Vaughn Drive, and the city parking lot between Poplar Street and Central Avenue.
And you are?
Hi, I'm Whitney with CASA.
Well, good morning, or almost, yeah, good afternoon. Thanks for being here. So tell us about Rumble on the River Car Show.
Okay. So Rumble on the River is going to be what we hope the new car show that takes place Memorial Day weekend. We are partnering with Visit Madison, Indiana, and this particular car show is going to place more of an emphasis on antique and vintage cars. It will be an open show as previous years have been, but our categories are going to focus more so on those vintage cars. We have live music planned for about 6 hours that day at Fireman Park, and we have also partnered with Madison Fun Factory, which is the new business on the hilltop that should be opening quite soon. He is going to be hosting 2 different cornhole tournaments that day. When we were taking a look at the placer data, what we learned was the individuals who are coming and visiting at the car show, they're not staying as long as we would like for them to stay. So we're trying to implement things, family fun and family friendly activities for our patrons to do as they are walking throughout the car show. So the cornhole tournament is one thing. Of course, we'll have food trucks, and then one of the things I'm most excited about is we are going to be finishing the weekend off on Sunday with a ride on the Serpent of 62 to try to get more bikers in that day of the car show and ride out that next day.
Okay. Sorry, I'm looking something up here real quick.
One of the things that we tried to secure was, we wanted to secure the movie theater on Friday night to play a car-themed movie, like Smokey and the Bandit or something like that, and then having the availability
American
for,
Sorry, Carl's a big fan of American Graffiti.
yeah, or American
Classic,
Graffiti, that was
yeah.
on my list as well,
He brings
yeah.
that up every
Yes.
BPWS meeting.
And
Yeah.
when you play it, I won't bring it up again.
Yeah, okay.
That's my
So-
promise to you.
Yeah, and
So I'm
so,
on record now.
yeah, right, and so the idea would be, in the future, because we have touched base with the Ohio Theater, and they're not available that weekend, but in the future, we're hoping to make this sort of a weekend-long event. Rumble on the River with a movie on Friday night where the hot rods can come and park under the marquee, take a photo, and then, of course, a cruise in the night of, and then the car show on Saturday, and then again, that ride on the Serpent of 62 on the way out. So we do have some big plans
That's cool.
for the future, but right now, we're just doing the car show that Saturday and the ride Sunday.
A couple questions.
Yeah.
How will the staging be? Because I know the prior Memorial Day weekends, when the River Rat Rods were hosting it, they would stage and come in on Broadway Street.
Correct.
What's your vision there?
So a
Because I
couple
think
of,
your street closing, you're not on Broadway Street.
correct, we would like to leave Broadway Street open.
For parking.
Just because of the pool, honestly. We don't want to impede on the opening of the pool. It would be wonderful to have Broadway, but what we're planning to do is our participants will come south on Jefferson Street and enter on Vaughn, and they can either go east or west, because we're stopping at Walnut, and then we're going all the way down to the west side of Broadway. We are seeing, though, that pre-registration may be proving to us that our footprint may need to be a bit larger. I know in previous years, the car show did not go all the way up to First Street. We are going all the way up to First Street on Poplar, Central, West, Mulberry, not quite Jefferson, and we're not touching Walnut Street. But it would truly be ideal to be able to go further west on Vaughn Drive, just on the west side of Mill Street, to be able to use those side streets. Of course, that was not submitted to you guys. But like I said, our registration for this is proving that we probably are going to need a little bit bigger of a footprint.
So you're expecting a pretty good attendance?
We are.
That's great.
We've got connections with Pete and Jack's Hot Rods in Missouri. We've got connections in Mansfield, Ohio. I come from a car family. So all the uncles and all the family members are reaching out and really rallying around this event. So I guess my question would be,